I'm thrilled today to be with Stacy Ladyman, a new author to me, and I'm just a delight to meet you, Stacy. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for having me. I'm just enjoying getting to know you and your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. Well, Stacy, uh, tell us some stuff about you. And we were just talking about all the moves that you've done. You've moved all over. You've been in several states and have quite an experience with that. You'd love to travel. You've got a brand new book coming out, your first one. So we have a lot to talk about. So let's just dive in and get started.
Sounds good, Jennifer. I'm ready.
Okay. So tell us about first. Let's start with where you've been living. You're all over the place. We were talking about this, of course. Those of you that are listening to this, it's been what 2 months since the elections, but we were talking about this is the week of elections that we're actually interviewing. So we've been a little bit talking about that and the demographics of all the different places that Stacy has lived before. So we were just talking about that. So you want to expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. I grew up. I actually was born in Boise, Idaho, and lived in Pocatello until I was 10. Where then my family returned to my mother's roots, which is Arkansas. And I love my home state. It's a beautiful natural, it used to be called the natural state. And or probably still is. They changed the motto a couple of times, but and then I we moved once I got married, we moved to California, and we've had a South Carolina stop and a Florida stop. And now we are in New Jersey, and it's a beautiful state. We've been up here about 30 years. So I've kind of done a little bit of a circle around the United States, and it's been fun. And we do enjoy traveling and being and seeing new things. So it's
I
been good.
do detect a slight southern drawl that must have hung on even after 30 years in New Jersey.
It does. It does hang on, and I enjoy it. People they they try to guess my accent, so it's always fun. But it's in my roots, the Southern hospitality, the Southern ways, and I enjoy it.
That's a thing. It really is a thing I've discovered since living in the South. Hospitality is really overwhelming. It's a charming part of living in the South. I love it so much. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your book that's coming, that's released at this point. It's going to release, but by the time you guys get to listen to this, it had released on November 12th, and it's called Shep and the King of Hearts. I love the title. And
Here's a copy of it, and thank you so much. I'm enjoying. It's just a pleasure to hold it in my hands. I will tell
I'll
you that.
bet.
So yes, and by the time this airs, it will have been out 2 months. But right now, I am uh, anxiously awaiting the launch, which will happen in a few days. And it's been a journey. This has been a real journey for me writing this story.
So tell us what inspired the story. Where did this all start?
Well, I am a journalism major, so I think it's in there somewhere. I really had not used writing, and then one day, about 9 years ago, I felt God's nudge that I needed to write this story. But I didn't know quite how, and of course, I argued with God to start off with. I
Of
have to
course you
admit,
did.
I was, no,
And
no, that's not.
how'd that go for you? It didn't work
Not
so
too
well.
well.
Yeah.
It's not if there'd been a whale, I might have been in the mouth. But anyway, so I just kept listening to him, and I said, "Well, okay, I'll take a writing class because I need to refresh my writing skills." So I looked around, and I went to an online class at Gotham City Writers in New York City. And it was delightful. It was wonderful. It was before, of course, before COVID, before Zoom really became a thing, and we were online. And the teacher asked us in the first class, tell us about a trip that you did not want to take. Wow, well, that hit me like a lead balloon because I knew exactly what that trip was that I did not want to take.
Hmm.
And I wrote about that, and that formed the seeds for this story. That particular piece did not end up in the story in the way that it in the form now, but it had to do with my father, who is he is deceased now, but due to his gambling addiction, it caused a lifelong estrangement. And we were able to catch up with him and see him at the later part of his life. But the trip I didn't want to take was to have to go out to the West where he was living and take care of his remains. So it was a difficult time.
Hmm.
So that was the trip I didn't want to take. But since that, I have been on a writing journey that's just been a joy. And the Lord's watched me and helped me every step of the way, surrounding me with writing friends and writers groups, and until now to come to this point to have this book ready to launch. It's a thrill for me.
Oh, how exciting. So a 9-year journey to get to this point though. So, and then we talked about publications. So were you intending to look for an agent and traditional publishing when you first started this journey, or did you even have that in mind?
Well, first of all, I was doing, I would say I was in a period of observing my writer friends, seeing what was happening. The landscape of writing was changing, and publishing was changing dramatically from the first days in which I went to the Philly Writers Conference. And I just began to listen and learn. And I saw this change happening where there were a lot of people with traditional publishers that were going indie. And I was watching it, in front of my eyes. So the thing that for myself with my story that I couldn't really get a hold of until now was that I felt God was saying, put your story into fiction. And it wasn't quite, there was a piece of it that is it has roots of my own personal story, but I set it into fiction. So what would happen is I would go to some fiction writing conferences and I just didn't feel connected until I went to the Renew Writing Conference they hold it now in upstate New York at Camp of the Woods. And it really changed. It just God started working in through that conference with the people I met because there were a lot of people that were nonfiction writers there
Hmm.
and writing about their stories. And I said, I could just, now I was connecting, but I still felt that pull to make it fiction, but to have those roots of your own story in it. So that's kind of how I came. Then I found Redemption Press, which is the imprint in which I have collaborated with them. They have done all the hard work, to all the editing, all the formatting, the cover, everything, and it's been a beautiful arrangement. And I've really enjoyed working with them.
That's really great. So, when you for me, one of the things that are scariest about self-publishing are all those little things you just talked about. You need the formatting, you need to have a cover, you need to have an editor, all those things combined, but that they took care of that for you. So that's a blessing for you. And now here you have this book coming out. When you say it's roots, like some of my books were inspired by things in my own life, but they were not say, okay, for my first book I wrote was inspired by my brother's suicide, and he was a Christian, but I didn't, and I used his family as the bare bones of the family in there, and developed from there. It was nothing else alike. Is yours more closely related to your roots, or do you think it was more of an inspiration for your story?
Probably closely related to my roots. And I'm sorry about your brother. That is,
Oh, it's
that is one of the things I have come to learn about gambling addiction is it's also closely related to suicides. It's one of the highest addiction areas that can lead to suicide.
I
So
did
I have
not
learned
know
about
that.
it. Hmm. So if I continue in a series, that I might work with that subject. I'm not sure, but no, I think that this is Shep and the King of Hearts is a story about a girl who becomes a woman, but her longing to have a father. And that father, although she can be in touch with him here and there, she still doesn't know him into the deep level that she longs for. And she wants that relationship. So it is, but then at the same time, I like lightness and, joy and fun. So I was able to take some heartache and put it into some light and fun so that, we can examine the story kind of through an arm length lens
Hmm.
and then heal from it. So I enjoyed, and I'm very happy the way it came out in terms of not being so heavy that you can't deal with it, but dealing with it all the way anyway.
Well, and I think a lot of times fiction is a window in which people can see their own issues without it being in their face. Like they can relate to a character and they can see themselves in that character without somebody preaching at them, and they can come to the conclusion that, I have this issue that I have not really fully looked at, such as this character. And I do think that that's one of the powerful things about writing is you can take hard things and you can shape it in a way that is palatable for those that are suffering and then give them the hope that you have found in your own situations. And that's one of the things I really love about it.
I totally agree with that. And it's fun too, and it's enjoyable to where you can, it's not like sitting down reading a self-help book. It's
Right.
it's a story that you can envelop in and get lost in. And then when you close the book, the last line, you say, hey, that person knew my pain, and I feel better because there's some answers in there. And so that's my hope for this book, is that it will help people who possibly have had an addicted parent to something, or they've longed for a relationship and been estranged from a parent. And God's ready to heal those hurts in
Right.
our lives and come alongside us and show us how he can help us with that. So
Well, and I just think that part of that too is it's a ministry of sorts. When you're writing from a point of view, a Christian worldview, when you're writing from the heart, using the words that the Lord gives you, it's a ministry. You're ministering to other people, which is where that Second Corinthians 1, 3 through 4 comes in. The the
mhm.
the the healing and the grace and the all that we get from Christ, we can then offer to other people and give it to them in our writing. And I think that's so critical. I hope that's what drives many Christian authors to want to write. I know there are some, for my books, I want people to walk away. And I was saying earlier, my novellas tend to be a little more fluff than my novels, but I want them to walk away from it and think about it afterwards. I don't want them to set it aside and it's like the story's gone and forgotten. It was that simple. It was that easy. I want them to think about it and think, what can I take from that and apply it to my own situation? And I'm sure that's what you're talking about with this book that you've written.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And there's some books that have really, along the way that just came my way and really had an impact. One of those was Jennifer Wall's Glass Castle. And they ended up making a movie about it that really spoke to me. Saving Mr. Banks. I don't know if you've,
Oh my word.
yeah,
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
and things like that. I had some funny things happen. Like speaking of movies and books, I went to see the movie Casino, and the main character in his name's Jim, which is my main character. One of my main characters, the father that has the gambling addiction, and his name is Jim. And I came home and said, "Oh no, Lord, I've named my character the same thing as this Jim." this movie. I can't do it. And it was almost as if I heard an audible laugh that said, Stacy,
How many
there's
gyms
lots of
are there?
Jim.
It's not like you picked up some very strange name. How funny. I think one of the hardest things I have, and you're going to laugh, one of the hardest things I have are picking out names and finding my titles. I struggle so much with that. And it seems like it should be the simpler parts of writing, but often those are the struggles. You're looking through a phone book, or if I pick a name, it's like, wow, that person at church has got that name. Do you think they'll, are they going to be offended? And they'll probably never read the book, but you can't help but think about those things.
Yes, and my one of my the main character woman in my book is named Chris, and she's a woman. But you have to learn that when you're reading it. Okay, Chris is not, and it's Chris. Chris is not a man, it's a woman. So yes, it's funny these things we think about with writing. So
Well, I have a friend who is a woman named Chris, and my husband's name is Chris. So there you go. You see it all over the place. Can you give us
okay.
like a little bit of a back cover blurb of your book? Something that no spoiler alerts, but something that because I don't have a copy of the book yet, so I was unable to read the back cover. So I would like to know if there's something you can share that will let people get a deeper feeling about what this book is about.
Sure. Well, Chris is a strong woman who runs a behavioral health hospital in New Jersey, and she's got it very put together. And but then one day she gets a call from her father that he's coming back to town, and he's been absent in her life for 25 years. So she feels that she can handle this, and but at the same time, there's this hot Rock Hudson kind of chaplain character that comes to work at the
Oh,
hospital. So these worlds converge and they have to solve, and Chris thinks she can solve this way on her own. So these worlds converge. I tell you, I do love travel, and it's set in New Jersey, but then Atlantic City comes into play and also Idaho. So I'm going back to my roots a little bit and enjoying, that part of the journey. So I hope people that enjoy travel and going to different areas will enjoy that in the book.
so do you have a little bit of a romance happening in your story?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but there's is
Well, it's kind of
something.
hard to have a hot looking pastor and just leave them there with no hope for those of us that love romance.
No, he's not conventional. And his name is Shep, thus the title of the book, Shep and the King of Hearts. And but he's not your normal, well, the normal's not a right word, but he's very unconventional, and I have a lot of fun with this character.
Oh, good.
And
I love books like that. I love it when you come out from a different viewpoint that would be, put people on the edge a little bit, come out of the box, show somebody a
right,
different side of things. I think that's always fun when it surprising readers, I think is a lot of fun to do. And I think
yes,
readers appreciate that. I don't think they want the formula. If they're going to get into deeply in a book, they don't want it to be formulaic. They want something different. So
absolutely.
you brought up, so we have your website, which we're going to put on in the show notes. You write blog posts. I saw you have some beautiful blog posts on your website. This is the first book, but is there another book coming out? I mean, is there something else you're working on?
I love it. It's been blood, sweat, and tears, and then I'm launching a book, and I've had more people ask me, well, then when's the next one? I've said, wait a minute, let me get this one out. But I do have an idea for two follow-ups right now in my mind that would be a continuation of these characters. So would form a series.
Hmm.
But I would like to see how people respond to the characters and see what's out there, and give that a little bit of time. And I'm a kind of a, simmer the pot, the soup in the
Yeah.
pot person, probably too much so. And I pray don't let it take 9 years for me to get the next one out. And I know it won't. But I like to simmer ideas. I like to think about them and pray about them
Well,
because There's a lot of things out there that people need, uh, you know, and you just want the stories to be balms of hope
Right.
for people.
Well, it's probably one of the reasons you are better suited to Redemption Press rather than traditional publishing because they want a book out every 6 months minimum. And that's a kind of that rat race. When I first got published, when I first actually I actually did have a literary agent, a Steve Lobby agency for a time. And then I ended up being pulled into my husband's chiropractic business that was supposed to be a few weeks long and ended up being closer to 3 years. So I had to set writing aside. But they it's that constant writing. But when I got the agent, I already had 3 books done because I'd been writing for 10 years before I ever got anybody's
Wow.
attention. So having 3 books done, I thought, okay, this is good because you have time then to build on the next ones. And that does make a difference. But eventually it all catches up with you. And it's like, okay, can you have one done? Can I get another one in 4 months? We need this in 4 months. And what about 4 months after that? Can you do another? It's like, it's scary. It's a lot of pressure because you always think, do I have another book in me? I mean, really? And when you have
Right.
people
And,
counting on it,
that is one of the things that I noticed with my friends that were traditionally published. And it may be good for the pocketbook, I guess. I don't know, but for me, the pressures of that are great, and I really kind of like doing my own thing. But I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to going traditional if that was the path. But because there all these ways of getting stories out are good,
right?
you know, in one form or fashion. But, this has worked for me, and I'm just thankful to God that I'm getting it out, getting this story out, and I want it to, well, it's just a relief actually to have this story coming out.
Well,
So,
nine years is a long time to be working through a story and all your thoughts about it and creating and your characters. And I'm excited to read about the characters. I love your title. I think it's very clever. I don't know who the King of Hearts is. If I had to guess, I would think it would be the father, but only because he's the gambler. But it's it's just unique. The title is unique, and I don't think people are going to forget that. It's going to be one of those that click with them.
well, thank you. And, King of Hearts was a little bit of play on poker, but at the same time, who's the king of your heart?
Oh,
So
yeah, I like that.
it always was part of, and Shep is, people don't know Shep yet, but I hope they'll read and get to know him and um, attach to his character because he's kind of an unforgettable character in my eyes.
So you'll have this in paperback, and I'm guessing ebook. Will it be on
Yes,
Kindle Unlimited?
it will not be on Kindle Unlimited. It will be on Kindle, especially coming up for the promotional period starting in November. Of course, this is going to run in January, this show. But in the first 3 weeks of the launch, it will be on a big promotional time is that you can download it, I believe, even for 99 cents the ebook. So the
Oh,
idea is
wow.
to get, yeah. So, but the paperback will always be available. And then after the promotional period, it'll go back to normal pricing. But
Okay.
we want people to get out there and read the story and
Wow.
leave reviews. And,
Absolutely.
reviews help authors, bottom line. So,
I can't say that I can't say or stress that enough. It's very difficult because sometimes people will come to me, the church ladies, all my church ladies read my books and oh, I love your book. It's like, can you leave a review? And they don't do that, people don't tend to do that. And unless they don't like something, but
yeah.
that's always a struggle. So,
Yeah.
uh, well, it's been such a pleasure. I'm excited to read this myself. I'm going to go look for it right away and see if I can get it on that promotional price because I'm cheap that way. I like to have things on sale if I can get them on sale. But it's been a pleasure.
Well, yes, and I was told, yesterday I had a meeting with my publisher and they were saying that it won't be on Kindle Unlimited, but you can during the promotional price get it for a really good
That's good.
good deal.
That helps. I mean, 99 cents is pretty good. pretty good. So,
It is.
thank you so much. And when you come out with another one, I'm hoping I'll still be podcasting and we can meet up again and talk about that one.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for everything you do and the spotlight that you're putting on Christian writers and the stories. It means a lot. And really, I think that we all should say thank you to the story, interviewing and talking to people about that, how they came to write. That's really important. So I thank you so much, and thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a real blessing, Stacy. So you all, I'll have all that information for you, and you need to get out and get this book as soon as possible. So God bless you, Stacy, and we will hopefully meet up again someday.
Sounds great, Jennifer. Maybe I'll see you in your home state.
Maybe. You're always welcome. We have room.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.